They say silence is the loudest scream, and that day, I screamed without a word. When he chose her, his childhood friend, over me, I didn't fight, didn't plead, didn't ask why. I just smiled, because sometimes, the best revenge isn't anger, it's peace. But fate, oh fate, loves irony. Months later, that same man would be on his knees before me, crying for a second chance he'd never get. The evening still burns in my memory, the night he looked at me and chose someone else. I can still smell the faint jasmine scent in the air, hear the distant laughter of strangers, and feel the dull ache in my chest as I stood there, pretending I was fine. Arav and I had always been almost lovers, almost together, almost enough. From the moment we met in college, something between us clicked. He was that kind of person who could make the dullest day feel alive, always smiling, always late, always saying something that made me roll my eyes and laugh anyway. I was the quiet one, the dreamer, the writer who loved losing herself in stories. And somehow, he became my favorite one to write about. For 3 years, we built a friendship that teetered on the edge of something more. The world saw us as inseparable. He'd drive me home after classes, wait outside the library with coffee, celebrate my smallest wins like they were his own. But what no one knew was how my heart quietly learned his rhythms, the way he laughed, the way he brushed his hair when he was nervous, the way his voice softened when he said my name. I thought he felt it too. Until the night Ananya came back. She was his childhood friend, the girl who grew up next door to him, the one he always mentioned with a fond smile. She was like family, he'd say. I believed him. I had no reason not to. But when I saw them together for the first time at his birthday party, my belief shattered. She wore a red dress that night, simple but impossible to ignore. Her laughter filled the room like she owned it, and when Arav saw her, he froze for a moment, as if the rest of us had vanished. Ananya, he whispered, and she smiled, the kind of smile that said you still remember me, don't you? They hugged for a long time. Too long. Long enough for something inside me to understand before my mind could catch up. After that night, everything changed. He began canceling plans. The good morning texts that once came before sunrise now arrived hours later, if at all. When we did meet, his phone would buzz every few minutes, with her name flashing across the screen. I tried to hide my hurt, tried to tell myself it was just friendship, but deep down, I knew. The warmth between us was fading, slipping through my fingers no matter how tightly I tried to hold on. One evening, after days of unanswered messages, he finally called. "Can we meet?" he asked, his voice sounding strangely heavy. We met at our usual cafe, a small place tucked between bookshops, where the smell of roasted coffee always felt like comfort. But that day, it didn't. He was already there when I arrived, staring into his cup like he wished he could disappear inside it. I sat down, forcing a smile. "So, what's so serious that you needed coffee and courage?" He looked up, and my heart sank at the sadness in his eyes. "Mira, you know I care about you, right?" Every breakup starts with those words. And though we were never official, I knew what was coming. "I know," I said softly. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's just that Ananya, she's been through a lot lately. Her mom's sick, her dad's gone, and she doesn't really have anyone else here. She needs me." The words stung. "She needs you," I repeated. "And what about me, Arav?" His voice dropped to a whisper. "You're strong, Mira. You'll understand." That was his mistake, thinking my strength meant I didn't feel pain. Thinking my silence meant acceptance. I swallowed hard, forcing steadiness into my voice. "So that's it. You've decided." He looked torn, guilt flickering across his face. "I don't want to hurt you." I smiled, though it felt like bleeding from the inside. "You already have." He reached out as if to touch my hand, but I pulled it back, holding his gaze with quiet resolve. "You've made your choice, Arav. I just hope she's worth what you're giving up." He said nothing, and maybe that silence was the loudest confession of all. I left the cafe before he could see the tears fall. The moment the door closed behind me, the world blurred. My breath came in shudders, the streetlights spinning through my tears. But I didn't turn back. I couldn't. That night, I erased him from my phone, messages, photos, voice notes, everything. It felt like cutting off a part of myself, but I knew I had to. Because sometimes love doesn't die in flames, it fades quietly, until one day you realize the person you'd do anything for wouldn't do the same for you. Days turned into weeks. The ache dulled, replaced by something else, determination. I poured myself into my writing, the only place my pain felt safe. Every wound turned into a line, every heartbreak into a chapter. Slowly, painfully, I began to heal through words. 6 months later, my debut novel, The Girl Who Let Go, was published. What started as a private journal of pain became a book that resonated with thousands. Messages poured in from readers saying my story gave them courage. I should have been happy, and I was, but deep down, a part of me still whispered his name when the nights were quiet. Then, one evening at a book reading event, fate played its cruelest trick. The auditorium lights dimmed as I walked on stage. I looked up, and froze. Arav sat in the back row, staring at me as if he couldn't believe I was real. His eyes followed me like a ghost who'd lost his home. For a moment, the old pain returned, the kind that makes your chest tighten and your hands shake. But then I remembered every tear I'd cried, every sleepless night, every time I'd chosen peace over pride. And I stood taller. I read a passage from my book, the one I wrote the night he broke my heart. Greater than, sometimes love doesn't end with betrayal, it ends with understanding that you deserved more all along. The hall erupted in applause. Everyone clapped, except him. He just sat there, unmoving, eyes glistening with something that looked a lot like regret. After the event, I found him waiting backstage, hesitant, almost afraid. "You were incredible," he said softly. "I didn't know you could write like that." I smiled faintly. "There's a lot you didn't know about me, Arav." He took a step closer. "I've missed you, Mira. Can we talk?" I met his gaze for a long moment, then said quietly, "Some words lose their meaning once they're too late." I walked away, leaving him standing there among the echoes of applause that wasn't for him anymore. That was the last time I saw him. Or so I thought, because life, with its cruel sense of timing, wasn't finished with us yet. The next time our paths crossed, he wasn't standing tall and confident. He was on his knees, and crying. He once said I was too strong to break. But the night I found him again, pale, trembling, and on his knees, that same man could barely breathe through his sobs. Funny, isn't it, how the one who walks away always returns when it's too late? It started with a message I almost ignored. It was late, almost 3 a.m., when my phone buzzed against the silence of my apartment. My second novel was due in 2 weeks, and I was sitting by the window, trying to find words that didn't hurt anymore. The message read, "Mira, please, I need your help. It's Arav." The sender's name made my blood run cold. Ananya. I hadn't seen or heard from either of them in nearly a year. My first instinct was disbelief. Why would she message me? What could possibly connect us now? I almost put the phone down, but something, maybe an old ache, maybe curiosity, made me call her. She answered instantly, her voice trembling. "It's Arav. There was an accident." The world around me seemed to tilt. "What kind of accident?" I whispered. "He's in the hospital. Please, can you come? He keeps asking for you." For a long second, I couldn't speak. My heart wanted to say no, to stay where it was safe, behind the walls I had built. But my soul, it still remembered him. So I went. The hospital smelled of disinfectant and regret. The hallways buzzed with quiet footsteps and distant beeping machines. When I reached his room, I froze at the door. Arav was lying there, pale as the bedsheets, his arm bandaged, his face bruised. Tubes and wires ran from his body like fragile lifelines. And yet, the moment his eyes opened and met mine, I saw something raw in them, relief. He tried to sit up, grimacing from the pain. "You came," he whispered, his voice cracked and small. "I did," I said softly, stepping closer. "Because I once cared, not because you deserve it." His eyes filled instantly. "I know I don't. But please, listen." He looked weaker than I'd ever seen him. Vulnerable. Human. The boy who once laughed at everything was now struggling to even speak. "She's gone," he said finally, voice breaking. "Ananya's gone." The words hung heavy between us. "What do you mean?" I asked, my chest tightening. He looked away, his hand trembling. "She was driving that night. My car. She was drunk. I told her not to take it, but she wouldn't listen. When I tried to stop her, she pushed me away and sped off. I followed her in a cab. And then, I found the wreck." He stopped, his breathing ragged. She hit a tree. I tried to pull her out, but his voice cracked completely. She died before I could. I stood there, numb. He closed his eyes, tears streaming freely down his bruised face. I thought I was saving her. I thought choosing her was the right thing. But I destroyed everything. Her, me, us. The pain in his voice was so raw, it cut through my anger like glass. But still, I couldn't forget the nights I'd spent crying while he laughed with her. The way he'd walked away like I was easy to leave. She called me that night, he continued, choking back a sob. She said she was tired of living in my shadow, tired of feeling like she'd never be enough for me because of you. And I realized, his gaze found mine, desperate, broken. I never stopped loving you, Mira. Even when I tried to convince myself I did. I looked at him, stunned. You don't get to say that now, I said quietly. You don't get to come back because the person you chose is gone. He shook his head. You don't understand. Every day since you left, I've regretted it. I read your book over and over. Every word felt like it was written for me. I laughed softly, bitterly. It wasn't for you. It was because of you. He lowered his head, his shoulders trembling. Please, just let me make things right. I'll spend my whole life making it up to you. Just don't walk away again. I stared at him, the man I once thought was my forever. The one who had taught me love, and then taught me pain. He was everything I once wanted. But he wasn't what I needed anymore. I sat on the edge of his bed, watching the way he avoided my eyes, ashamed. For a moment, I saw the boy I fell for, the one who used to wait outside my library, holding 2 cups of coffee, smiling like I was the only person that mattered. And I realized something heartbreaking. That boy was gone. All that was left was a man learning the hard way what love really meant. You know, I said softly, I spent months trying to understand why you chose her. I thought maybe I wasn't enough. But then I realized, it was never about me. You chose comfort. You chose what was easy, not what was true. And that's why it all fell apart. His tears fell faster. You're right, he whispered. I was a coward. I nodded slowly. Yes, you were. But you're also human. He looked up, hopeful. Then you forgive me. I smiled faintly. I do. But forgiveness doesn't mean I want you back. His breath hitched. Please, don't say that. You don't get to beg for what you threw away, I said gently. You made your choice, Arav. And now I'm making mine. He broke then, completely. He tried to sit up, but his strength gave out, and he fell to his knees on the cold floor beside the bed. His hands clutched mine desperately, his voice trembling. Please, Mira, don't leave me again. I can't lose you twice. The tears in his eyes were real. But so were the scars in my heart. I knelt in front of him, lifted his chin, and whispered, you already did. For a long moment, we just looked at each other, 2 people bound by love, broken by choices, and separated by time. Then I gently pulled my hands free and stood. I hope you heal, Arav, I said softly. And when you do, I hope you remember that I was the one who stayed when she wasn't. But now, I have to choose myself. He tried to speak, but no words came out, only tears. I walked out of that room without looking back. The sunlight hit me as I stepped outside, warm and new. For the first time in years, I felt free. Months passed. My second book was published, titled The Girl Who Was Enough. It wasn't a love story, it was a story of becoming. Of learning that you don't need to be chosen to have worth. At the launch event, a reporter asked me, what inspired you to write this one? I smiled and said, a lesson life taught me the hard way, that sometimes, the love that saves you isn't from someone else. It's from yourself. That night, as the applause filled the hall, I caught a glimpse of a familiar face in the crowd, Arav, standing silently at the back, tears glistening in his eyes. Our eyes met for a brief moment. I didn't smile, didn't wave. I just turned away. Because some stories don't need an ending, they just need closure. And mine had finally found it. The dedication page of my book read, greater than, to the man who broke me, thank you. Because of you, I met the woman I was always meant to be. That was the last time I saw him. And maybe, that was exactly how it was meant to be.